I had a pint of beer last night at the Cumberland Arms in Hammersmith, where we were staying, and the pint of beer cost £7.62, you know, London prices, right? For 10 pence less than that, you can buy a reverse Polish notation calculator with 18 digits precision from China, admittedly. The only catch is you have to build it yourself and you have to reprogram it yourself. The way it's sold, it's just a simple 4-function calculator, and I think one of the fellows here has noticed it before. It's got a fairly cheesy sort of little gimmick on it where you can type in color codes and it'll tell you the value of a resistor. You know, personally, I just prefer to turn the 3 dials. And it does a couple of other little things like that, but it's essentially a 4-function calculator, but it comes in a 28-pin micro from STC in Beijing. STC have picked up the license, I think, to use the old Intel 8051, which came out in the late 70s. It was intended to be more of a working microcontroller rather than, say, the 8080 that we use at SkyTrain for train control. So the 8051, of course, it's incredibly slow by modern standards. So the first thing that STC have done is speed it up 12 times, reconstruct it in CMOS, and the ROM is a flash ROM. So those are all good things. Now, in this little £7.52 kit, you get everything you need, and because it's a through-hole 28-pin, it's, trust me, very easy to solder. This doesn't require any brain surgery. There's probably 2 or 3 passive components, and the display, which is a very nice LCD display illuminated, it simply plugs in to a socket at the back, so you don't have to do any fancy surface mount assembly. So I assembled it, and to my delight, it fired up. The first thing you notice about it, well, there's the very attractive display. The other thing you'll notice is there's pi in there to 18 digits, and that is accurate. What happened was a very enthusiastic guy down in San Francisco bought one of these kits and figured he was going to reprogram it, because it is, after all, flash ROM, and he did it in C. He said it was a huge job, and he said if he knew what was involved in starting it, he probably wouldn't have started it. But he did it, put it all on GitHub, the actual hex file, converts this thing into a 4-level stack RPN calculator with 1 memory. There was only 1 register left when he was finished. There's only 15K in the ROM, actually, and he used about 13K of it, putting in this very advanced version. It's RPN, very high resolution, and I gather in the work he does, he needs to know logs and transcendental functions to very large numbers of decimal places, because he said he had no real interest in doing trig functions like sine, cos, and tan. But another enthusiast came along and rewrote the old Sinclair stuff that's out there from the old Sinclair Scientific from 1974, because they had a very clever way of doing sine, cos, tan with next to no code. And it's not particularly accurate. It's certainly not 18 digits. It's about 6 digits, same as the Sinclair. But there is sine, cos, and tan in here. You'll see all 3 of them, and the inverse. But on the main transcendental, Jeff Yang, who was the guy who did programming in San Francisco, he went to the original HP Journal articles, because a lot of them describe exactly how they worked out the log, the exponential function, y to the x, and all that, in various papers, and he used the algorithms as described. Now, I mean, he wasn't downloading anything from anything, because this had to work in a Chinese calculator, but he used the flowchart of the algorithm, and he got all those important functions working to very, very high resolution. So bear in mind, this is just a pint of beer calculator. What's really nice about it, in the kit I mean, you notice these buttons, and I have a sample of the calculator to pass around if you want to look at it. You can do anything you like. You can't destroy it. It's bulletproof. And it's only £7. The clever thing about it is these plastic buttons on top. I wish more calculator kit manufacturers would consider that. You've probably seen things like the WP34 super duper calculator with annoying little, I've got one with annoying little sticky buttons you put on the keys, and you know how long that lasts. Just irritating to use. This is nice because you pull off the plastic caps around. You can design your own button logo in whatever color you like. This is just mine. There are others out there with different colors. You put it under the cap, put it on top, and it's good for life. I mean, that is just one of these simple bits of Chinese brilliance I really, really appreciate. The other thing is the keys themselves. As you push them, very, very sturdy Omron type keys. So this is not a 7-pound calculator when it comes to the keys. Anyway, enough of that. So I built my kit into the calculator, made sure it into the final thing, made sure it worked. It was only like an afternoon to do, and then I had it working as the original 4-function Chinese calculator. And then I went to Jeff Yang's website, which is in the back of the paper, and he points out another incredibly clever Chinese thing. I think you wouldn't expect necessarily. When they came to do the microcontroller of the 8051 in CMOS, they made it as easy to program as possible, and I do mean easy. So all you've got to do to reprogram is you get Jeff Yang's hex file, which is on his GitHub site. You just take it, store it in your computer. You get a standard dongle that plugs in, and they're available very cheaply from AliExpress as well. By the way, this all comes from AliExpress, but you can get it from other places. That dongle just plugs into a USB port and presents a serial at the other end, 3-wire serial. That's all you need. You hook up the 3 serial pins, receive, transmit, and ground, to the little calculator, and they've actually brought the pins out for it. And then you say, well, how do I program it? Well, this is the incredible part. Number one, the actual interface to download it is free from STC. You just go to their website, and they have a very simple exec file, which you download, and you just fire it up. It comes up on a Windows display, and it says, what calculator have you got? And you put in the right number and all that. You load the hex file, and it says, OK to program. So how do you program? Well, this is the amazing bit. All you do is interrupt the power. And the Chinese have done that for 2 reasons. You can never read the original code they have put into their microcontroller. You cannot download it. Jeff says he's tried every way, just out of curiosity. In case things went bad, he could revert to a 4-level controller. He says, no, there's no turning back. So he had to write it himself. He had to write all the functions himself. As you interrupt the power, even if the calculator is running or doing something, it doesn't matter. It's got a bootloader built into the microcontroller chip. Very, very clever. As soon as it senses the interrupter power, it starts loading the hex file from the STC interface. Could not be easier. You sit back, and it just comes up and say version 1.14 loaded, kind of thing. I've never seen anybody else as good as that, even PICs and other things. It's just incredible. The only note of caution I got from reading the web, other people, not necessarily this calculator, but they've taken other Chinese gadgets, 3, 4, or 5 pounds each, that come with a STC micro, and reprogram them to do all kinds of things, like a nameplate that illuminates and stuff. And they said, most of these guys said, the only thing to be careful about is this interrupting of power. You don't want to be pushing a button, because if you push a button, there's a lot of bounce, as we all know. Even a toggle switch isn't that wonderful. So what one of the guys recommended, and it's worked really well for me, is to try and find just a micro switch with a lever on it, standard lever micro switch that are used to just sense movement, door, available very cheap, or surplus or whatever. So I use that. I don't know whether I had to use that, but I didn't want to mess around. So I click it, and bingo, the thing just goes blank and comes up with a new file. So that's how you load it. What am I saying now? Yeah, I'm just going to flag down a little bit just to get down to the bottom here. Show you a little bit of the interior. So there we go. I wasn't going to pull it apart because it's actually quite a beast to pull apart. It's simple. You just need patience. But fitting the display in, it's not the electronics part of it, but the angle of the display and everything has to fit just inside the case, the right angle. And that's the reason I came up with this modification to it. As Jeff Yang had designed it, he kept the original power supply. The original power supply was just a couple of CR3032 batteries, standard lithium cells, right? And that's okay. But I measured the draw, and I worked out that it was only going to run for about 15 hours off those batteries. And I didn't fancy unscrewing about 12 screws to do that, just to change a couple of lithium batteries. Mainly because not just the difficulty, but the fact that you're screwing into plastic all the time. How many times do you think that would last before the plastic splits, like in a spice, so to speak? So what I did, it was a wee bit of a breakthrough for me. I went on to good old AliExpress again, and I found for £2, something like £2.18, delivered kind of thing, you can get what's called an emergency cell phone power supply. And it's just something you can plug in and run your smartphone on for another 20 minutes, I guess. But it came, opened it up, and inside was a 300 milliamp hour lithium battery, which is almost exactly what we needed for this. It was the right size and everything. But the main thing that came in it, which is really, really clever, was a complete little controller board. And what that controller board is doing, number one, it's charging the batteries. You just plug it into a USB anywhere. It takes the 5 volts, steps it down to the 3 point whatever to charge the lithium, not just stepping it down, it's actually managing the charge. It does constant current, which is the initial part of charging lithium. Then it goes to constant voltage, and then it finally shuts off. So totally safe. It's not going to explode in your face. You get all that in this £2 emergency cell phone thing. The other thing it then does, this same microcircuit, it's called the 9688, and I've got it in the back there. I've got a picture of it somewhere, which I'll move on to. This clever little gizmo then steps the 3.3 volt up to 5 volt, and 5 volt is what this thing runs on, because it runs, it actually runs on 6 volt, runs on two lithium cells. 5 volts just fine. So it's doing the whole job for you in a little circuit board that you don't have to mess with. You just have to attach to the ends, in and out. You've got the lithium battery, and you've got the calculator, and that's what I did. And if you look on the side here, and if you're passing around, but if you look on the side, there's a little tiny sub-miniature jack plug on the side. I believe it's the world's smallest. It comes from Switchcraft in the United States. I hunted down one that was tiny so it wouldn't fit neatly in the calculator. Just see the hole there. And that's just so you can plug into a USB and charge it anytime you like. The other clever thing, I draw a little tiny, not me being clever, but them clever, I drew a little tiny hole in the side of it. And you think, what's that for? Well, when you move on down to the actual circuit board, the one that comes with the £2 cell phone supply. Oh, there, by the way, is the ads. Oh, I'm not making this up. Go on down to the bottom. And there, you can see at the top there, this is the circuit board that comes in the cell phone charger. So I've just added it on top. This is the regular circuit board that comes with the kit for the calculator. All you have to do is solder on these Omron type switches at the back, the dip socket for the micro, and then you just drop the micro in. And there's just a couple of capacitors and resistors. It's a piece of cake to solder up. It's not a beast. But this is what you then get. This is the in and out circuit. And it has all kinds of extra information on it. It has, number one, it's safe. You can leave that calculator on all day, well, several days, and if it will finally run down, it won't discharge the LiPo battery. It will get down to its safe value of 3.0 volts, and the little management thing that comes in the £2 charger says, oh, we're out of juice here, and it shuts it off, so isolates it. On the way down, it's blue normally inside this little LED, and it goes flashing blue when it gets below, I think, 3.3 volts. So it's giving you a bit of a warning, and then finally extinguishes. When it's charging, it's red. So you can see a lot of information from this single LED. I wanted to see that after I'd assembled it, so I drilled a little hole in the side, and if you've still got the thing there, you look in the side, you saw the jack socket. There's a tiny hole as well. If you look in the tiny hole when it's on, you can see the blue LED. And you can see it flashing red when it's charging, and you can see it flashing blue when it's getting. So it tells you all the information again without having to pull it apart. I'm a big believer of put it together and never have to mess with it again. I've had it for almost a year now, and I use it every day on my desk. Not for fancy stuff, it's not a programmable, but for ever routine, easy things, and a huge level of precision. It does the job. Okay. And there's just a close-up showing you the little lithium battery compared to a 2-penny piece. That's the original calculator circuit. Now I've assembled it. And there's the socketed STC micro. The very clever little board here that comes in the cell phone charger uses, I think it's called a 9688, FMC 9688. FMC is a big Chinese company that does very clever ASICs. And I looked online. I could. What was the number again? Oh, 9688. It's in the actual paper too. I looked up their website, FMC, and they have the data sheet there to download. It's in Mandarin. I'm like, oh God. I downloaded it in Mandarin, went to Google to translate classic Mandarin to English, and it came out with a perfect English. Credit to Google, perfect English web data sheet that told me everything I wanted to know about how it works. So a very, very useful thing. It's like a cheapo LiPo, and yet totally safe. And let's see. Okay, I'll try these things. They don't work, Nigel, so that's all right.
You need to click back on the document.
Do you want to
Click on the
scroll
document?
down?
Yeah,
I'll do it for you.
There it goes. I'm getting the...
The mouse is plugged
Do you
in.
have a
Use the
remote over
wheel.
there?
There you go. Oh, no, it's not. No, I didn't want to learn the mouse on the fly. I mean, I know I use a mouse, but so what I did, this is the FM 9688 circuit from the data sheet. Absolutely brilliant design, in my opinion. I don't think anyone else makes anything quite that clever, taking 5 volt from the USB in, charging a 3 volt, and then taking the 3 volt and feeding it back at 5 volt to run your phone. And mainly managing the battery safely, because you've got to be careful, as you know, with these lithium LiPo batteries. You certainly don't want to leave them on charge. This does everything. It protects you, it protects itself, and protects the battery. And this is the little mod I did. And I sent it to Chris, to Jeff Yang rather, and he said, nice stuff. I said, Jeff, are you going to write an 18-digit set of trig functions for us now? And he says, no, I've lost the energy. So we've got the Sinclair ones in there, which his friend wrote. They do work, but just like with the Sinclair, it takes a while as the angle gets closer to 0. And if you try the famous Mike Sebastian test, you've probably all heard about the 9-degree test, where you enter 9 degrees, you ask for the sine, the cos, the tan, then go back, you inverse tan, inverse cos, inverse sine, and you don't get back 9, but you get something close to it. It gives you a little bit of an idea how good the calculator is, but mainly it's to determine the DNA of the calculator, like which chip was being used in it. Well, I tried that foolishly on this guy, and just like with the Sinclair, it went into an absolute tizzy on the way back. It got to, was not happy. It was going on forever. And I found, to my dismay, I couldn't shut the calculator off, because normally you shut it off with a shift and an off. And I emailed Jeff Yang. I said, Jeff, this is a bit of an emergency. You're in California, you're 8 hours behind me, but my calculator will not shut off, and I refuse to dismantle it. How can I shut it off? He said, piece of cake, Chris. You just use the emergency shut off. What's that? Well, you apparently just hold the shift down and then push the off. Thank you. Because I wasn't going to have to pull it apart, if things like that happen. So it all worked out. There's a couple of good web things at the end. GitHub is where Jeff Yang's, he also does a fabulous description of what he did with the calculator. So it's worth going there, just do his README. He's got an excellent, he's a really, really literate guy. And then this one is the famous Sinclair thing from Ken, what's his name, that describes how in 340 words, they got all those trig functions in 1974 out of thin eyes. And it's useful just to know that's how your trig functions are working on that calculator. If you see how robust it is, the original version that came out, about the same price, was a whole series of plastic laminates, and you had to sort of screw them all together and then angle the thing in. It was a bit of a klutz. Whereas this box, it sold so well, they got a proper injection molded box, and that's what you've got there, and that's all included in the kit. I think it's a great piece of work. Once you've got it sitting on your desk, you feel pretty smug with those 18 digits. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
Any questions? I'll be happy to.
I noticed there's other calculators on AliExpress as well. Have you tried the other kits?
I haven't, no. Yes, I'm thinking of dipping in there and taking a look.
Right.
It's quite funny too, the prices go all over the place, as you probably know. You go to AliExpress and of course they're actually selling things from different vendors through them. And some vendor will have the exact same calculator for £13, another for £7, another for £9. And you look at them, it's the same thing. So go with the £7 one. I had no trouble with that. And I think it was free delivery too, which is amazing. But very, very, very funny Chinese. One thing you can never do with them, I'm not trying to offend anyone Chinese in the room, but this is just experience with AliExpress. You cannot return anything easily. This is not Amazon. If you don't like it, you've really bought it. And they start sending these ridiculous things about, not so much AliExpress, but the company that actually sold it. They say, you're shaming our company. I will probably lose my job. Do you really have to return it? Chris, couldn't we talk separately? And oh God, Amazon's just take it all back, But that's all right. For £7, you're doing good. And there's nothing like it in the West. And I think it's a lot of fun. But the real credit goes to Jeff Yang, because believe me, reprogramming that 13K in a Chinese calculator with no knowledge of what the original 4 functions in there were, only knowing it's an 8051, he did an amazing job, I think. He deserves a real pat on the back.